The Golden Bull, Chapter 24. My wife asks a great deal of Zephyr, Siddha said. Even if she's found and returns to us, I can't believe she'll do what Nari wants. I'm not sure what she'll decide to do, Jomar said, cutting the conversation short. He knew he must put Zephyr out of his mind and concentrate on his tasks. He finished tarring the second horn and brought it to Siddha. A grunt told him his work had been accepted. And now the ears must be tarred, Siddha said. Jomar sighed. They look harder to do than the horns. Perhaps, but your fingers will remember what they learned from working on the horn, Siddha said. Jomar wasn't sure what this meant, but he stood next to Siddha as the goldsmith slowly blackened the turns and folds of the ear. When it was his turn to tar the second ear, Jomar tried to recall every move that Siddha had made. He was so engrossed in what he was doing that time seemed to stop. When Siddha suddenly stood beside him, Jomar's breathing quickened and his hands began to tremble. You are correct in thinking that the ears are more difficult to do than the horns, but the tar is smooth. You've applied it evenly, Siddha finally said after closely examining his work. Jomar breathed normally again. Watch as I cover a horn with gold, Siddha said. He hammered the gold on the stone, then took up a piece just large enough to cover the horn. He made a smooth transition between the gold and the lapis tip. Now hammer the gold onto the horn, Jomar. Remember, I must handle the overlap. Work as quickly as you can so the tar retains its heat. Trying to imitate Siddha's rhythmic beat, Jomar began to pound the gold against the tarry surface of the second horn. He hoped the goldsmith's mastery would somehow seep into his eyes, his fingers. He spent a long time working on the horn before taking it to Siddha. It was neither perfect nor a failure. Taking the mallet from Jomar's hand, Siddha made additional blows against the gold surface, then held it out for Jomar to see the corrections. Didn't I tell you that gold is forgiving? In the places I repaired, the work was either too rough or the gold wasn't tight enough against the tar. Again, Siddha delicately made a smooth seam between the gold and the lapis. After another careful inspection of the horn, he said, Your work is satisfactory for a beginner. You've been testing my skills by giving me more difficult tasks than I thought you would, Jomar said. I had to. We have a deadline to meet. But given enough time, skills can be taught by a good teacher. I've been testing you for more than skills. Jomar's stomach tightened. For what then? Siddha gazed searchingly at Jomar. I've been trying to decide if you have the qualities that working with gold requires. What qualities? Jomar asked softly. Persistence, dexterity, and the ability to make the right motions in the right order, Siddha said. And the most important thing, you must have a passion for the process of working with gold, not just for the gold itself. Jomar was unsure that he had these qualities. He looked away from Siddha's unblinking eyes. When the workroom began to darken, Siddha lit the lamps and the smell of sesame oil filled Jomar's mind with images of his mother. We must gild both ears while the tar is still warm enough to hold the gold. I'll do one, you will do the other. But this was the time that Jomar thought he would be out looking for Zephyr. Comforted only by the familiar scent of the oil, Jomar bent over the workbench to gild one of the ears. He showed his work to Siddha when he thought the job was done. The goldsmith held the ears next to each other to point out differences between the two. After making some corrections to Jomar's ear, Siddha again compared the ears and grunted his approval. Jomar thought of Aban, experienced and gifted. For his own work, Siddha's grunt would have to do. Siddha carefully put the gilded horns and ears on a work table. They'll be attached when the head is ready to receive them. The night comes on and the tar has lost its heat. He threw the white cotton shroud over the lyre. Jomar began putting the tools back on their hooks, then took up the reed broom and swept the room clean. Why do you uncover the lyre in the morning and cover it in the evening? He asked. The instrument hasn't been touched since we started working on the bull's head. I've never thought about why I do this, Siddha answered. I suppose it's a way of saying that the workday begins when the lyre stands watch over our labors. When it withdraws under its cotton blanket, we also rest. Jomar nodded and banked the coals. What about the strong, staring eyes you promised? Tomorrow, Siddha answered with a tired smile. We've had a full day, so you don't have much time to search for Zephyr. Go out and look for her before darkness comes.